Serial killer Ted Bundy liked having sex with dead women. While he was on death row, he had many admirers and was often visited by a love-struck lady named Carol. What do you suppose they talked about? Was he like, "Hey, Carol, you're looking good. How about you and I, you know, what do you say? Ted, have you lost your mind? We're in the visiting room. I'm not having sex with you in the visiting room. No way. Oh, come on, Carol. There's no one around right now. Not a chance. Sex in the visiting room. Huh. Over my dead body.
Okay.
Oh, Carol, what were you thinking? Obviously, only one thing. Teddy was your man, for better or worse. So while Ted was on trial in front of a judge, her man proposed, and Carol Ann Boone legally became Mrs. Ted Bundy. She soon packed up and moved to Gainesville, Florida, close to Ted's prison, where she could visit him weekly. She told reporters that, quote, "We were just crazy together," close quote. Although conjugal visits were not allowed, one of the guards thought it might be just fine to bend the rules a little bit. And Carol recalled, "After that first day, they just didn't care. They even walked in on us a couple of times." It seems one of their favorite love nests was behind the prison water cooler. After lots of water cooler quickies, Carol became pregnant, and 9 months later, the Bundys welcomed their little baby girl Rose into the world. However, Mr. and Mrs. Ted Bundy were prison lovebird exceptions. Even in states that allow conjugal visits for other prisoners, no state in America officially permits conjugal visits for death row inmates. Which means officially, there's no diddling on death row. But unofficially, many serial killers and other inmates find intimacy either alone or with other inmate sweetie pies. I'm Joy Krause. Welcome to this episode where we're talking about the penetrating topic, the ins and outs of sex, and wondering if it's possible to find any relationship love hacks by exploring the sexual practices of different people, including serial killers. Since sex is such a large, salacious subject, we are going to narrow it down into one type of sex that is rarely discussed: having no sex, not even a little bit, aka abstinence. Sometimes abstaining from sex is our choice, and sometimes it isn't. There's no telling where we'll end up with this provocative subject, but hopefully we can find some insight from people like Ted Bundy, Tammy Menendez, who is married to one of the Menendez brothers, from Tim Tebow, and other experts. Let's begin. Let's imagine a place where you can be arrested if you have sex before marriage. That's what a young lady in Indonesia worries about every single day, because she has secretly been living with her partner for the past 5 years. She tells a journalist from the BBC, quote, "With the new law, both of us can go to jail if one member of the family decides to make a police report," closed quote. This new law took effect in December 2022 in Indonesia, a Muslim country. The law bans sex outside marriage, and under the criminal code, an unmarried couple caught having sex can be jailed for up to a year. The rules apply equally to locals and to foreigners living in Indonesia or visiting holiday destinations such as Bali. And believe it or not, this country is not alone. There are 9 other countries that have severe punishments for people who have sex before marriage. These punishments include whipping, stoning, severe fines, and/or jail time. Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. It's always something, isn't it, about sex? Death row rules, the government, or husbands, as in the case of chastity belts. Chastity belts for women were really a thing in the Middle Ages. Picture a heavy metal panty with a great big padlock. They were used to lock in a woman's faithfulness. Lovely ladies were locked up indefinitely with no access to a key. In his 1969 book, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, but Were Afraid to Ask, David R. Rubin describes it as an armored bikini with a screen in front to allow urination and an inch of iron between the vagina and temptation. Let's stop right here and get a picture of this thing. A tight-fitting metal panty with hinges and a peeing screen. Can you imagine trying to sit or walk in something like that? I mean, how long does it stay on? Does it rust? Does it come with an oil can? She needs an oil can. I honestly thought chastity belts were a myth. So I checked with the curators at the Semmelweis Museum in Budapest. They displayed an exhibition on the history of the chastity belt in 2010. So I thought they might be chastity belt believers. And the more I learned, the more stories about these torture contraptions began to sound real. According to the museum experts, these belts were used to prevent a maiden's promiscuity when their knights left for battles, for pilgrimages, or religious crusades. Inconceivable! I heard a rumor once that when King Arthur was preparing to embark on a noble mission to drive away the barbarians, he called aside his close friend, Sir Lancelot. He said, "My bride Guinevere is one of the most beautiful women in the world. I need to protect her from the lecherous knights of the Round Table. Therefore, as my best and most trusted friend, I am leaving you the key to her chastity belt." As King Arthur began to ride off, barely a mile from the castle, he saw Sir Lancelot tearing after him on a horse. As he got closer, he heard his friend yelling, "Come back! Come back! You gave me the wrong key!" Throwing away the key and curtailing their sex life is the verdict from many convicted killers, such as Eric Menendez. In 1996, Eric and his brother Lyle were convicted of murdering their parents and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During their televised trial, Eric and Lyle received over 1,000 letters a week from people all over the world. One pen pal became a special friend to Eric, and after 2 years of communicating, they became husband and wife. In 1999, Tammy Ruth Sackerman married Eric in the visiting room of Folsom Prison. Their wedding cake was a Twinkie. I wondered if they were able to sneak behind a water cooler like Ted Bundy and his wife. Not at Folsom Prison. They don't allow hanky-panky of any kind. Strict rules prevent conjugal visits or even any time spent outside the prison walls. They can kiss each other at the beginning and end of their visits and hold hands, and that's it. This was a part of my research about why women are attracted to men on death row that was totally baffling to me. Tammy is a beautiful, successful woman who chose to love a man on death row, knowing she will lead a life without physical intimacy. Why? It certainly seems inconceivable, doesn't it? Maybe it did to Tammy also at first. Because in her book, They Said We'd Never Make It, she talks about the early challenges in their marriage. However, in spite of the challenges, 20 years later, they are still husband and wife celebrating a celibate marriage. Maybe you feel these are extreme examples. I mean, why would anyone choose to lead a no-sex life? Maybe you can't relate. But actually, it happens all the time for social, religious, health, or moral reasons. One man who faithfully vowed to remain celibate until marriage was football star Tim Tebow, who won the Heisman Trophy and 2 national championships as a quarterback. In 2020, he married Miss Universe 2017, Demi Lee Nell Peters. Also making the vow to wait until marriage were celebrities John Tesh and Connie Selica. During their courtship, they took a much-publicized vow of celibacy. In a 2017 interview with A.J. Adicki at WHOM, John said it was a good decision that Connie initiated, and added, quote, "When you ladies take the lead, it can be a powerful thing in this world," closed quote. And it appears that nowadays ladies are taking the lead. Statistics show that among 21 to 30-year-old females, abstinence rose significantly, nearly 15%, between 2008 and 2020. And what about the guys? Well, same thing. During that same period, young men's abstinence increased nearly 2/3. They said it was due to concerns about unwanted pregnancies, STDs, time to focus on school, work, or life goals, or simply waiting until they find the right person. To have or to have not, that is the question when it comes from abstaining from sex. And I can relate. There have been times in my own life when I needed a break from intimate relationships so I could reflect, heal, or recenter. And I agree with the young people who talk about taking time to focus on other things. And there may be other reasons, like no one's available that you want to be with right now, or maybe you have health limitations, or a dozen other reasons why the birds and the bees aren't buzzing around right now. So, is abstinence becoming a trend? Could America be heading for a sex drought? Apparently, not among the over age 60 crowd. Thanks in part to Viagra and other erectile dysfunction drugs, seniors are enjoying a sexual reboot. The Villages in Florida is the USA's largest senior citizen community. In the past, there were rumors that this village is the STD capital of America. Now, we all know that rumors are primarily unfounded, gossipy goop. But then again, there is this recent Fox News headline. Villages man, 77, faces hard time for stockpile of illegal ED drugs in retirement community. My, oh my, oh my. Poor Reggie Kinser, who at 77 years old has become a hardened criminal.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's Superman!
Well, we've come a long way together, inconceivably exploring abstinence. Can you believe that we began this topic with the sexual habits of Ted Bundy and ended with geriatric drug peddler Reggie Kinser? My fascination with the lives of serial killers always takes me into uncharted, weird territory, and this subject is no exception. So here's what I get from all of this. Abstinence. We either love it or we leave it. Sometimes it is our choice, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's temporary, and other times it's permanent. We may choose abstinence for religious, cultural, health, or other personal reasons. But the key word here is choice. Choice. Our bodies, our choice. Always. I'm Joy Krause. Thanks for listening to this episode of Killer Love Hacks entitled The Ins and Outs of Sex. I sure enjoy our time together and look forward to being with you again as we delve into our next episode, The Dishonesty of Honesty. And that wraps up another intriguing case at Killer Love Hacks. If you're itching for more clues on the mysterious ways of love, don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or right from our Love Detective headquarters at killerlovehacks.com, so you'll never miss a case. Subscribe, leave a review, and help us spread the word by sharing the podcast with your true crime love detective buddies. Until next time, keep your heart open and your eyes peeled. Who knows where the next clue will lead? Happy sleuthing, Killer Love Hackers!